Hello, welcome back to another live. If you're new here, my name is Laken and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're trying a new background today. I'm still in my bedroom slash office, but I have this little like portable tabletop. And so I set it up facing the window. So my desk is behind me this way. And so it's kind of a boring background. We've got the white doors, the bathroom, the closet, the bathroom, and then like out into the hallway. But it's simple. I have the natural light from the windows, which is really nice. And I don't have to worry about like too much of like when it's messy behind me. So we'll see. We'll see if I decide to stick with this, but trying something new today. Hello to everybody. Let's kick it off with our first question that we always start with. I guess the one negative is that it's not the most sturdy table. So when I'm clicking, I'm afraid it's going to like wiggle the camera, but we'll see. Anyway, hello. Hi. What is your win from the last week? If you are here live, please say hello in the chat and let us know what one small win you have to share from the last week. And if you are part of the replay fam, please come and share in the comments. I love, love, love reading comments and hearing about all of your wins. I will share mine while I wait for some of those comments to pop up. And that is that I did a 15-minute Peloton ride this morning. I have been trying. This is coming in an upcoming vlog. Actually, I know I talked about it in the goals video from a couple days ago, that I've started taking some in-person workout classes again because I really just, like, for a lot of reasons, I wanted to get back into working out in person and taking like some fitness classes. And I think for a little bit, I wrapped my head around like, that's the only way that I'm working out right now. And that's just not feasible from a time standpoint, from a financial standpoint, it's not feasible. And so I encouraged myself this morning, like, and I'll be totally honest with you, part of it was because I was filming a B-roll clip for a reel, because I'm batching some content before I go out of town. And I was like, I am going to get on the Peloton, but I did it. I did a 15-minute ride this morning and I feel really good about that. Started getting your garden weeded. Oh my gosh, I'm so ready. That win, Jennifer, is like, it's almost spring. It's time to like think about things like that. Started journaling again. I love that. I love hearing how different everybody's wins are. I also have my handy dandy cup of coffee. It is actually caffeinated this week. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm a little bit stuffy. I think it's just allergies. Although Lila was a little bit stuffy over the weekend, so I don't know. But so I didn't sleep well, and my sister and I are recording our podcast tonight, which means I don't get to like, normally Lila goes to bed and then I immediately do my PM routine and then I like get in bed and read and go to bed pretty early. That is not what my evening looks like tonight. So second cup of coffee it is. And it's delicious. Okay. Getting into back of a routine with your little one, getting back into your routines, and you left the house by yourself for the first time since a baby. Oh my gosh, Brittany, I hope that was so enjoyable. Like I was actually just talking, I went and got my haircut yesterday. You probably can't tell because I didn't get that much off. But it looks really fresh and lovely at the bottom. And I went and got my haircut when Lila was 1 week old because I had scheduled that appointment thinking it was going to happen before her because she was 3 weeks early. And my mom, my husband, everybody was like, go. Like, I still want you to go get your haircut. Like it's whatever. And so that was the first time that I left the house. And it was freaking the best. I know your baby's a lot older than 1 week. If I hadn't had that scheduled, I probably wouldn't have gotten myself out of the house. Sorted over 1,500 photos on your phone. Holy moly. And bought an adapter to hopefully move them off your phone. Oh, that's cool. Unpacked from your vacation. Giving up on trying to read books. I love listening to audiobooks. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm assuming it's something that's keeping you from just, like you said, enjoying reading. So going to embrace audiobooks and get going on your goal. Linda, I love this. And I actually, I'm trying really hard not to just like read comments on social media things for the sake of kind of like looking for, not drama per se, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes if I'm purposely going to read the comments, it's usually on a piece of content that I know is probably going to have some like controversial comments. So a YouTuber that I love, Jessica, I almost said Jennifer, Jessica Braun. You've heard me talk about her before. She uploaded a video recently about like unpopular opinions and hot takes and shared her thoughts on them. And in that video, one of the hot takes that was submitted was that audiobooks don't count as reading. And let me tell you, the comments disagreed. The comments were like, no way. audiobooks are reading. It is absolutely reading. It is incredibly ableist to state that audiobooks don't count as reading, and they 100% do. And I went to that comment section because I needed that validation, because I'm the same way. When it comes to reading fiction, I sit and enjoy it. I like reading my fiction books. But for right now in the season that I'm in, if I try to sit and read a nonfiction book, it just doesn't happen. My brain cannot sit and focus on it. And so audiobooks it is, and they 1,000% count towards your goal. So awesome. Went to a women's conference. Oh, Monique, that's so much fun. I'm so bummed. One of my best friends and I were trying to go to this one that was about like mom business owners. It's called like Mom 2.0 or something like that. But the weekend just didn't work this year. But we're gonna go eventually. It was only for an hour, but it was much needed. I cannot believe she is already a month old, Brittany. Holy moly. I remember your comment saying that you just got in, like she was born at the very end of January. I can't believe she's already a month. Time flies. Absolutely flies. Okay. Let's quickly, I am clicking all of the wrong buttons, y'all. I am so sorry. Okay. Very quickly, let's talk about the calendar, because I typically share the calendar the last live of the month, like before the new month starts. But last week's live had to get rescheduled. And by rescheduled, I mean canceled and just moved. The topic got moved. And all the topics just basically like domino affected. I just like pushed all the topics 1 week later. So, here is the March calendar. There is no live next week. If you haven't heard me talk about it, we are actually going to Argentina. I told the whole story in a vlog a couple of, maybe like a month or two ago, that I'll relink if you're interested in the story. But we leave on Saturday for Argentina, and we'll be gone just about a week. We get home Monday, the 17th. So there will be no live. There will be definitely a YouTube video in its place. There may even be some bonus YouTube videos coming up while I'm gone. But that is the plan for next week. Otherwise, business as usual for the rest of the month. Things are a little bit different inside the community because it's the end of a quarter. So our coaching call is over a weekend because it's going to take a little bit longer. And yeah, this is the calendar for March. And I just wanted to make sure that I shared that. Okay, let me remove. I saw a comment. Oh my gosh, it's a constant loud ringing in your ears that is especially audible when you're quiet. Interesting. I've never heard of that, Linda. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, let's check in with my goals. So if you did not get a chance, my goals video went live on Monday. And one of the things, I usually do this one, so it's not quite so big. My head isn't quite so small. I am splitting my March up into 2 parts, and I'm not sharing this with you to be like, look how complicated I'm making things, and you should make things complicated too, because that's absolutely not my goal. But I do hope it serves as a reminder for you that you get to make decisions for yourself in your life, and you get to decide what works best for you and your goals. And you all have known that I was struggling with where I was going to cut off my Q1 and go into Q2. And one of the drivers is this trip. It was just made a really natural stopping point from my Q1 goals to my Q2 goals. So that meant cutting March in half. So for the last 2 weeks, this has been like last week, I started my March goals a little bit earlier also. And this week are my March part 1 goals, which are very similar to February. I'm just carrying over some things and focusing on wrapping up this quarter's goals. I've already checked off my one-time steps, and weekly I'm making some progress on it. The one that you can see that's kind of struggling here is creative time. I have done it 1 time in the last 2 weeks. I thought by dropping it back to 15 minutes and putting it daily, that would be helpful, but it's still not getting prioritized just with all of the trip prep and things that we have going on. So, but I'm really glad. Like, this feels really good that I am going to. It doesn't mean that if you have a vacation in the middle of a month that you can't just like take that week off from goals, because you absolutely can. And I've absolutely done that before, but it just worked. It just worked for me to be like, these are the goals I'm going to focus on. And then at the end of the week, March part 1 is over. I'm going to enjoy my trip. I'm going to take a break from goals, which is also completely allowed. And then when I get back, I'm going to pick up Q2 and March part 2. So there will be a March part 2 goals video that will go live the day I get back on the 17th. That will be my quarter 2 goals, and then my March part 2 action steps. So keep an eye out for that video. All right. Any other questions, comments, anything on any of that before we move into the topic for today? How have I already been talking for 11 minutes, y'all? What the heck? Okay, let's talk. So I decided that February was going to be about goal action steps. This is such a common requested topic where people are like, I don't know how to pick goal action steps. I don't know how to figure them out, etc. So I've done series in the past. I did one years ago about goal action steps broken down by goal. I did another set last year broken down by goal. And this year we switched it up again. And instead of breaking it down by goal, I broke it up by type of action step. So all the lives that happened in February were about one-time steps, weekly steps, and daily steps. And then the last piece of this puzzle is probably the most common question that I get all the time. Should this action step go on my goals or on my to-do list? I get this question so often. Or how do you decide where to put it on? Or how do you know? Or some form of this topic or question. So much so that I actually made a video about it in 2021. It's been an FAQ for that long. And it was actually one of the earliest like goal tip videos that I made. I started talking about my own. No, that's not true. But the way that I phrased it made it sound like it was. And but that can't possibly be true because I don't know, it doesn't matter. The point is that it's been an FAQ for a long time. So we're going to go through it again. What are the things to think about when you are deciding if you want your action step, your task, your item to be on your goal sheet or your to-do list? Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is what you don't want to hear. And that's that there's no right answer. It's wherever you want it to go. It's truly wherever you want to put it. I am going to give you some things to think about. I'm going to give you some tips. The video is not ending here, but I want you to remember that there's no right answer. This is not a guide. This is not what topic was that I made a little decision tree. This is not that. This is not science. This is an art. This is you get to decide, and I'm going to give you some ways to think about it. But at the end of it all, you get to decide what list you want to put it on, and there's no right answer. Maybe you like to keep your goals streamlined and focused, right? You want to, and this totally applies no matter what goal planner you use, right? If you use my goal planner, if you use a different goal planner, all same rules apply. Maybe you like to keep your goals list very streamlined and focused, and you don't want to clutter it up with things that you have to get done, right? You have to buy a teacher gift for Teacher Appreciation Week. You have to get this thing done around the house, right? You think of it as your goals are the things that you want to do, and your to-do list are the things that you have to do. It doesn't always have to work that way, but a lot of us, I think that's how our brains operate. And you want to keep your goals focused and things separate. Or maybe so you put most things on your to-do list, right? Or maybe you're the other way around. Maybe you want your to-do list to be streamlined and focused, right? Maybe you want your to-do list to be like, these are the things I absolutely have to get done. Everything else is gravy. And you don't want your to-do list to be cluttered with the things that you really want to do, right? Because then if that's on the to-do list, you're going to always go pick those things instead of the things you have to do. So you're going to put more stuff on your goals list and less on your to-do list. Again, these are just things to keep you thinking. By the way, I'm going to tell you right now, at the end of when I'm done like talking about it, I'm going to ask you for examples. So start thinking about like, if you have an example of something specific that you've struggled with related to this in the past, we're going to talk about it. I'd love to deep dive with a couple people on your individual examples. Okay. Next thing to remember to think about is do not compare your choice to anybody else's. There are going to be things that you want on any particular list for whatever reason you've decided. And also you don't need a reason. It could just be because you want to. And somebody else could do it differently. Somebody else could put I should have come up with examples before. Right. Maybe somebody is putting their like grocery shopping on their goals list because they are not good about going grocery shopping. They're good at skipping it and then just ordering takeout. So they've decided that grocery shopping needs to be on their goals list. And you are pretty consistent you have a routine where you go to the grocery store. And so you're like, I don't need it on my goals list, but it has to get on my to-do list or I won't do it. And so you put it on your to-do list. Okay. Neither of you needs to be comparing to the other one. One person has it on their goals, one person has it on their to-do list, and that works, right? Do not compare your choice to anybody else's. And this is true in general for goals, right? I don't want you comparing your goals to other people's. I don't share my goals for you to compare yourself to me. I share my goals so that you can see a real person with a real life going on a real goal journey. And this is where I sometimes get torn with the community and having us share our goals with each other, because I want you to be inspired and motivated and I want you to cheer each other on. But I also don't want you to see that like so-and-so put this on their goals and I don't have that on my goals. I have that on my to-do list. And am I putting it in the wrong place? No wrong place. No comparing to anybody else. Okay. So we're going to go into some questions to ask yourself, which some of these things I already touched on a little bit, but let's get them a little bit more concretely for you to think about which list makes sense for you to put it on. So first question is, do you want it to be a goal? That's it. That's the whole question. Do you want it to be a goal? Yes or no? That's where it goes, right? You say yes, it goes on the goals list. You say no, it goes on the to-do list. It is okay to go with your gut. And I reference this all the time and I still don't know who to give credit. I know one of you, a community member, tried really hard. They tried to chat GPT to help find the resource. And they sent a couple of books that this was referenced in. But I haven't read any of those books. So it couldn't possibly have been those. It was probably like a podcast that referenced one of these books. But the short of it is your gut, when you get a gut reaction, I used to be really bad about listening to my gut. Because I'm like, no, I need logic. I need to pro-con list. I need all the details and all the information before I can make a decision. Well, your gut is actually your brain calculating a decision really, really fast based on everything that you already know. So all the information that you've gathered in your however many years of life, that's all stored in your brain. A lot of it stored in your subconscious that you don't even know and you can't even pull from. Your brain takes this decision and it calculates it really, really fast, and it sends a feeling to your gut. And you have a gut reaction, a gut instinct. So guess what? It's okay to go with your gut. Now, sometimes you still need to make the pro-con list or make the spreadsheet. I've been there. But do you know how many times I make the spreadsheet, I make the pro-con list, and I still go with my gut? Wedding venues, still went with my gut. Lila's daycare, still went with my gut. I had the spreadsheet. I had all the data. It didn't matter. So question 1, do you want it to be a goal? Yes, on your list. No, on the to-do list. Next. Number 2, do you really need to prioritize it, right? Is it something that is really time sensitive or something that you really need to prioritize? If the answer to this is yes, which list, the follow-up question is, which list are you more accountable to? And there's no right answer to that. Some of us, it's me, I'm us, I am way more accountable to my goals list. I'm way more likely to do it if it's there than on my to-do list. My to-do list tends to get booted day to day to day. Doesn't mean I always do everything on my goals list. No, that's not true. But I don't know if it's just because I share my goals with you every month that I'm more accountable to it. Maybe it's me being more accountable to you rather than the goals list. It doesn't matter. Which one are you more accountable to? Which one are you more likely to listen to first between the two spaces? And if you need to prioritize it, you put it there. I don't care if it doesn't make sense to put it there. That's where it's going. Next one. Does it bring you joy? If the answer is yes, I like it on your goals list. I want our goals to make us happy. To-do lists get a bad rap, but most of the time to-do lists are just that. They are things you have to do. And they're like, my to-do list, my to-do list. I want your goals list to bring you joy and happiness. So if it brings you joy, I'd like it on your goals list. Again, totally up to you, not a hard and fast rule. A rule that I typically abide by. Is it something that you want to improve? This goes back to my grocery shopping example. So there are a lot of things that a lot of us do that are the same. I'm going to put that in quotes. Just think of that episode of Friends where Joey doesn't know how to use air quotes. there are a lot of things that we do that are the same, right? We all take care of our physical self somehow, right? Showering, etc., putting clothes on our body. We all clean-ish our living spaces to some extent. We all feed ourselves in some capacity. But how we do those things is very different. And whether we already have an existing rhythm and routine that we like about how we do those things is very different. So, if it is something that you want to improve upon, I always recommend that it moves to your goals. Again, examples. So, let's call it meal planning, right? This is something that maybe you do this, right? And you do meal plan. And that doesn't need to go on your goals list because you do it pretty regularly. It's pretty consistent. Again, you put it on your to-do list, get that check mark, remind yourself to do it, but it's pretty consistent. But you want to make improvements on it. You want to make the meals slightly faster. You want to make them slightly less expensive. You want to make them slightly healthier. One of those. It's really hard to do all of them, by the way. And so meal planning with intention, maybe that goes on your goal sheet, right? Or let's talk about cleaning, right? Maybe you clean-ish your house on a regular basis, and then it's like a massive firestorm clean right before you have company coming over. Maybe you want to work on that cleaning routine. So for now, it goes on to your goals list as you are working to improve it. That is how I typically operate with these kinds of things, right? If I am operating business as usual, my normal rhythms and routines, and I'm doing them pretty consistently, I don't need it on my goal sheet. It can stay on my to-do list. I still need it on my to-do list most of the time. I can't just my brain doesn't remember to do it. But if it's something that I want to make an improvement on, or I want to tweak it a little bit, then I will move it to my goal sheet. The other piece of this is that things might bounce back and forth a little bit between these lists, right? And you've seen me do this with my goals. There will be things that I will do pretty consistently, and then I move it back to my goal sheet because it needs a little bit more love. And whether that's an improvement or whether that's just getting it done or whether it's something I'm tweaking about it. And then once it's consistent again, it goes back to the to-do list. And things might bounce back and forth. You might find that in certain seasons of life, you need things in certain places, and then life changes and you move them somewhere else. Like Brittany's example of having a 1-month-old, right? There are definitely things that when I'm functioning at my regular self, I'm getting a full night's sleep and everything is regular. I don't need those things on a goal sheet or even sometimes on a to-do list. But when you have a 1-month-old, sometimes you just got to put down, take a shower and get it checked off. Okay. So don't feel bad if there's something that has been off of one of the lists that you put it back on. Which brings me to question number 5. Does it fit with the overall vision for your life? And I guess a first step to this is having a vision for your life, or at least having a sense of what you want your life to feel like. And if you need exercises that help you with this, I've done day in the life or ideal day exercises before. I can link a video with that, where you kind of have a vision for what your ideal day would look like or feel like. And ask yourself, does this task fit in the overall vision? Notice I'm not asking, do you want to do it? I don't want to clean the litter box, but does having a clean litter box for Charlie and my family fit within the overall vision? Yeah, it does. It fits in the overall vision. If the answer to this question is a no, maybe it doesn't go on either list, right? Maybe it's sitting there because it's something you feel like you should do or everybody else is doing it. But if it doesn't fit within the overall vision, maybe it goes on neither list. And that's an option too, is that it doesn't go on either list. If you're struggling so hard to figure out which one it goes on, maybe the answer is neither. The last thing I will say before we move on to some examples, action is more important than it being on the right list. You following through on the steps, you doing the things that you want to do or need to do is more important than it being on the right list. That is important to remember when you find yourself sitting there playing this game. Which list? Which list? Which list? In the time that you thought about which list, could you have done it? Or could you at least made some progress towards it? Try not to get caught up and spend time overthinking something that really, again, for something that is such a frequently asked question for me, I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal. Just pick one. Now I know that some of you are like, but it is. And I've been there. I've totally been there. And I change my mind. Sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna put it here. And then I'm like, well, it's not gonna go there, right? Going back to this like creative time, maybe if I'd actually put it on my to-do list instead of just my goals, I would have done it. And that is something that I can revisit when I'm reflecting on my goals. But at the end of the day, you getting it done, action is more important than any of it being on the right list. So before we move on to questions, again, I would love to do some examples. So if you have an item that you have struggled with before, like if you could think of a specific thing that you have thought had this like internal battle in your brain about which list I should go on, I would love to talk through it with you. I would love for you to share in the comments. Sarah, I tend to put several things on my goals list that I know will happen even without great effort, but it brings me joy. And so if I put it there, things like celebrate the anniversary. Absolutely. I love this. There is, again, no right or wrong. You get to put wherever you want to put, whatever you want to put. And I am all about getting those easy wins. And these things, like you said, are fun. And sometimes it is without great effort, right? You would celebrate anyways. Or sometimes it's a good reminder to celebrate those things and to do those little things. I saw multiple people in the community Facebook group talking about celebrating. They have like big milestones this month for their wedding anniversaries. It's like so many March weddings. I mean, our wedding anniversary is this month too, but it's 3, which is not exciting. But I love this. I love this reminder. Anybody want to share any examples? By the way, speaking of examples, you know, the live we did at the beginning of the year where I like gave you feedback on your own goals. I planned out Q2's content today, not today, this week. We're going to do it once a month in Q2, and I'm really pumped. Okay. It took me until this year to decide that my one-time action steps can be things that are from your to-do list, but you need to get done, but you're struggling with. But your weekly and daily action steps are things that align with the life that you want, like your habits or things that I'm implementing. That sounds great. It ultimately is, again, you, Mel, making that decision, right? You deciding that that's what works best for you. What works best is that your one-time steps is a to-do list that needs to get done, whether it fits well within your goals or not. And then your weekly and daily steps are those little things that you want to change, right? These little things that you're implementing and these little habits. I love it. And for those that are curious, like she has been a member of this community for a very long time and been working on her goals and herself for a very long time. And so it isn't something necessarily that's going to like change overnight. It's not something that's just going to be like, oh, well, actually, let me rephrase that. I heard this in a book or a podcast recently where it was like, you know what? Things do change overnight. They do, but they change overnight because of the work that you put into it. They change overnight because you did all the work for years and years. And then at some point, you do have this light bulb moment. And it happened for you when you were working through this year for the 2025 goals. Not like you haven't been working on annual goals with me for years and years, right? And this year you got that light bulb moment. And I love that. And I know sometimes you hear this kind of story and you're frustrated and you're like, okay, but I would like it to happen now or yesterday. I don't want to wait years. And I get it. It's so hard to have that patience sometimes, to know that if you just keep going, at some point sorry, I paused because I have a business example, but I don't know if I want to share it yet. At some point, the timing will line up and the light bulb will click and again, it will happen overnight and it will feel like it happened overnight. But in reality, it took a long time to get there. Oh, patience is hard. Patience is so hard. Our anniversary was 3/1 and we spent it cleaning our house post rehab. We hired someone who never showed up. Oh my gosh, that is the worst. That is the worst. But have you guys moved in? Because I know that has been hanging. We were kind of on the same house timeline, but I think we got I think our prior move-in projects were definitely quicker and easier. not to say that our post-move-in projects, it's time, like, after we go on this trip, when we get back, I need to reach out to our next project really, and we need like a designer. Is that a job? Like, I need somebody who is like both an interior designer and an architect and has like contract knowledge. Who is that? Who do I call? Because I need someone to like look at the space and be able to, it's an unfinished piece of our basement, and I need it turned into something specific. Anyway, tangent. Okay, if nobody else has any other examples, you're welcome to jump in later, but I also am happy to move on. I hope this was helpful. Refer back to this video whenever you feel like you're struggling with what list something goes on. Okay, the rest of the time is yours. Feel free to ask anything. It doesn't have to be about this topic. It can be about anything that you want to ask about. It can be about your individual goals or struggles. I promise, even if you feel like it's so specific to you, somebody else will benefit. It could be about a specific topic that you want to chat about, or whatever is on your mind, whatever it is that you want to chat about. And if you don't know how to phrase it into a question, you can always put topic and then whatever the topic is, and we can just chat about whatever. Cheers. Coffee. The one negative, y'all, with facing this way is I can see the sidewalk. And so I'm like watching people walk by. Like, that's kind of distracting. Like, that's kind of distracting. To like watch the people go by. Not that we live on a super busy street, but there's always people. There's people out and about. Still city. Oh, I love this, Debbie. The same thing happened for me. I did the workshops and brought it all together. Sometimes we just have, I mean, just even as simple as like, I've been setting goals for years, and I finally, this year was the year that I was like, I'm changing up my quarters, because the quarters as they are set don't work in my brain. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Not a question, but I'm literally ordering my Oura ring right now. Oh my gosh, Joanna, I'm so excited for you. I love that you use this as a reward for yourself. I think that's so awesome, and I hope that you love it. I mean, I don't even wear my Apple Watch anymore. The only thing I miss, which I just really is probably not that big of a deal, is like when somebody sends me a message, being able to just check it. And so I do feel like maybe I grab for my phone slightly more, because I just want to make sure that nobody sent me a message because I didn't see it on my watch. But at the same time, I kind of like not being able to just be like, oh, look, a text. And I just wear my ring. And I also feel like it's because it's my ring and not my, for whatever reason, I don't know if this is true, because it's an app that I have to open up to know where I'm at for the day. I don't overthink it. I guess this could go both ways. I don't overthink it, right? Whereas like when I had my Apple Watch and I would try to close my Apple Watch rings, I would constantly be like, how close am I to this? How close am I to this? And because it's an app and it's not like, I can't look at it and see how close I am, I don't know how close I am. And then but I think that that's good. But at the same time, if I was actually like working towards hitting those goals, I don't know how close I am. So I don't know if, now they do remind you sometimes throughout the day. I'll get a text that's like, you're so close to hitting your activity goal, and a brisk 12-minute walk should do it. And some days I'm like, okay, that sounds good, ring. And sometimes I'm like, no way, Jose. I'm planning to wear both. I wore both for a bit because my Oura ring, when I specifically ordered it, it was for sleep and cycle tracking, because I didn't want to wear my watch to bed, and my watch didn't do a good job of cycle tracking because it doesn't take your temperature. And so I did wear them both for a while. And then I finally was just like, I can use my Oura ring for my fitness type stuff, and I don't need my watch. I'm late, but my win is that I'm at the gym. I didn't want to come, but had I remembered the live, I wouldn't have. No, Debbie, I read that backwards. I'm glad that you're there. Just sharing a light bulb moment. I've been struggling to adjusting to my mom living with us. She's been here since 2021. And this week, as I was reading the Lazy Genius Way chapter about living in your season, I realized how much I should be cherishing this time. First off, The Lazy Genius Way is a book that I absolutely love and highly recommend to lots of people. Highly, highly recommend. Number two, it is I don't want you to say should, Sarah, because like should is so relative. Um, and it's so much harder to think about it when you're out of it than when you're in it. Because I mean, we can say this about so many phases. I feel like you're always me. I'm literally talking to myself about myself. I always in life was like the next phase, right? I'm like, when it was like when I was in high school, it was like, when am I going to get to college? And then it was like, when am I going to get to go be a big girl? Okay, when am I going to meet my person? Okay, when are we going to get engaged? Okay, when are we going to get married? When are we going to have kids? When are like, and it was always like the next and the next and the next, and just focusing. And now it doesn't mean that we can't look towards the future, right? Goals are like the epitome of the future, but it's like that quote about, if your past self knew the season you were living in now, like, how would they approach it? And how would they embrace it and enjoy it? Um, and I finally feel like I am in a place where I can be like that. And I'm not like worrying about the next moment. Um, it doesn't mean again that I don't think about them, right? I think about, the next baby, or I think about like Lila being in school full time, or I think, it doesn't mean I don't think about those things, but I think about them from a planning standpoint as opposed to like a wishing standpoint. So I feel you. It's hard. It's totally hard. Sometimes that anticipation is almost like more fun than like being in it. But being in it is also amazing if you let yourself enjoy it. I just want to hear about the house. How's it going? Joanna, I mean, it's going. So yeah, I did a whole video during Vlogmas about all the house projects. And so I talked about how before we moved in, we did paint top to bottom, and we did new carpets on the first floor and the second floor in the basement. The first floor is hardwood, and we didn't touch the hardwood. It was in pretty good shape. Now, it's still in pretty good shape, but I'll be honest, I like noticed little corners or little scrapes or little whatever, now that I'm like in here, but it's still overall in pretty good shape. Um, and then we did the powder bath, which I posted a picture of on Instagram, just because uh, the contractor kind of not talked us into it. I mean, we were eventually going to do the powder bath, but he was just like, why we, well, it had this awful wallpaper that was in there, and he like took a piece of it off, and he was like, I feel like if we're going to do this room, we should just do it now. And so we did. We did the powder bath, and then God, I have to be forgetting things when I think about how much we paid before we even moved in. Oh, we redid some electric. So not on this floor, but on the first floor in the basement, the can lights were in the weirdest spots, and they were linked up to the light switches in the weirdest way. And so we like rearranged them and added more so that there's more light and it makes sense. So that was an expense we weren't planning. Oh, and the front door needs to be replaced, but it's not here yet because it is not a average door size. It's a custom sized door, which is so silly. So it's been ordered, but it has not arrived. So that is still like outstanding from a first chunk of stuff with the contractor. And then in terms of like moving and settling in, I feel like we're in pretty good shape. I mean, I haven't hung up anything on the walls except for curtains. Like, well, I guess the mirror is hung up, but like no like decorative stuff has been hung up because I just want to make sure that like the furniture is where I want it to be before I like center pictures over furniture or whatever. So that is something that I feel like um is something I could do easy. Like I'm looking at our bed right now, right? And if y'all remember in our old apartment, I plan to do the exact same thing. I did what's the word where you put like a bunch of different picture frames in a thing? A collage wall? I feel like there's a different word for that. Anyway, I did that above our bed. That was all like, it was our ketubah and pictures from our wedding and our honeymoon, our engagement photos, etc. And I haven't hung it yet here because a gallery wall. Thank you, Jamie. A gallery wall. Not because I don't know what I want, because I literally am just going to do the exact same setup that we had in our old apartment. I just am not sure if the bed is exactly where I want it to be. So I'm like waiting to do those kinds of things. Um, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I know I mentioned this in a few places, but just because it belongs in this conversation, is that Sam has been back in Texas for a good amount of time since we've moved in. Um, and so some of the house stuff has just had to take a back seat because I can't solo parent and work and house at the same time. And so that's the one that's had to take a back seat. But hopefully we'll get there. The one that is really like just not time sensitive because like it's not, but it is the outdoor space. Cause like as soon as it starts to get warm, I want to be able to use that outdoor space. And right now it's very unlevel. So it's not, in my opinion, safe for a not strong walker, like an 18-month-old. So that needs attention sooner rather than later. So yeah. How's the desk working out being in the bedroom? For the most part, it's fine. Um, the I just said this the other day to somebody. So the two things that I don't love about it. Number one is this, right here. And I'm trying a new direction today and trying to figure it out. And this I feel like is working. I mean, the background's not exciting, but like it's simple and I don't have to worry about it. Um, that's the one thing is the way that I don't want the bed in the background of the lives. Um, and then the only other one is, and my fellow morning people can relate, is sometimes I like to get up early and sometimes I work out, sometimes I do a household thing, sometimes I wake up early and I want to work. And when my husband is still asleep and I would like to work, that is not always feasible. But I did get a new laptop in January that has killer battery life. So as long it's like I added a step to my evening routine that says laptop out question mark. Basically, it's like if you're planning to work in the morning, make sure that your laptop is out in the living room or on the dining room table. And so that's all. That's like the only time that it's an issue. Um, it is also helping me keep my desk neater because it's in the bedroom and I want the bedroom to feel peaceful and neat. So I'm keeping my desk neater. So I think it's good. I don't, as much as I would love, here's it's actually less there's one more struggle. Um, is the podcast. So we have space, we have the whole podcast set up in the basement, but there's no door to the basement. And that's where Lila's play area is. So really we can only record the podcast when Lila's asleep or not here. Which adds a little bit of scheduling. It's not that bad. Like there's definitely times, most of the time that, let me say that differently. Most of the time it's not a problem because most times when my sister and I record, we do it on like a weeknight after Lila goes to bed because she wants to see her anyway. So she comes over, we all hang out, we put Lila to bed, and then we record most of the time. There has been like one time that we kind of wanted to record at like a 5 o'clock time frame, and that just isn't an option given the setup. And it used to be. So that I think has probably been more than anything. And it just is what it is, just makes us flexible. We're building a 18-foot floor to ceiling bookcases with a rolling library ladder. Joanna, that's amazing. You are living my Beauty and the Beast fantasy. We don't have 18-foot anything in our house, so that would just not even be feasible. But that is amazing. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear about all your house updates that you're making now that you are getting some new roommates. It's not a roommate, but it's funny to say that. My dad called Sam my roommate for the first like year. This is back to our conversation about cherishing the time. Sarah, I felt like my husband and I were getting cheated out of our time because the first 8 years of our marriage, his mom lived with us. We only had a couple of years alone before my mom moved in. That's such a bummer. I think maybe thinking about what that means, and maybe it's like scheduling some time where you can be alone in some capacity. I'll send photos. Oh my gosh, please do, Joanna. But yeah, I actually, last thing on the house, and then I'll come to your question, River J. I am going to share house updates. There's vlogs coming, right? Y'all know that my content is always a little bit on a delay because that's just what works best for my life, my editors, like our routine and our rhythm. But I do have a lot of house stuff in upcoming vlogs. I have some weekly vlogs coming for you soon. That's the main thing I thought about, how you could work at the desk early morning and your husband wasn't up yet. Yeah. And because my laptop has good battery life, and then my other morning routine stuff, like my journals and stuff, I just leave downstairs in the living room. So that's been working out. Okay. River J, do you have any tips on reading for schooling that you don't really feel like reading? I've started the book in the past and have read half, but I recall that it is a very heavy book to read. Yes. So first, when it's something that you don't feel like doing, you have to know why it's important to you, right? And this may take the exercise of like, but why, right? So like, why are you doing this reading? Because it's required for school. Okay, why are you doing this schooling? And dig deep and make sure that you know why this isn't important to you. Now, that's not always going to get you going. We're going to talk practical in a second, but that's got to be like in the back of your mind, is knowing that why when you're starting to do something that you don't feel like doing. Number 2, a lot of things, if we're talking generic, are things that you don't feel like doing. And then once you start, you realize that it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case for you, right? I don't know if you are thinking that it's going to be a heavy read and then you start doing it and it's not as bad as you remember, but it could be that you're building things up in your head, and maybe there's some really tough chapters, but some of it might be a little bit easier. So that's another thing to think about. Next up is the actual practical of executing. So one is doing it in the time of day that makes the most sense for you, right? If I waited to read something heavy until the evening, it wouldn't happen because I couldn't function. And so it might be that you have to do it first thing in the morning, or vice versa. Maybe you don't function well in the morning and you've got to do it later on in the day, but making sure that you do what makes the most sense for you. Setting a time limit, not worrying about getting through a certain amount of pages. When something is tough to read, if we set a page or like a chapter goal, all you're doing is looking at how many more pages you have or how much longer the chapter is. And that just like it spirals you into like not wanting to do it, or just like it not going well. So instead, I would set a time goal and you set an actual timer, right? I'm going to sit and read for 10 minutes. However many pages you get through is how many pages you get through. And if you have to do that multiple times a day, depending on how long you have to read this book and when you need to be done by, you may have to do it multiple times a day. But by setting goals in terms of time is going to be incredibly helpful. I will also, to the extent that you can, is to reward yourself in some capacity, right? So it could be as simple as like, when you finish a chapter, you get to watch an episode of something that you love, or you get to go read a chapter of a book you're actually excited about. Or once you finish your 30 minutes a day, then you get to, go for a walk outside or whatever it is. I'm not saying like you're going to buy yourself something after every chapter, but little rewards to keep yourself going when the light at the end of the tunnel feels really, really, really far away. And then a big celebration at the end of the book. I think that is definitely something I would set up and know in advance. Like when I finish this book, then I'm going to whatever it is that would be a celebration, a reward for you. So hopefully some of that helps. And hopefully those of you who have a similar struggle with something that you don't want to do, even if it's not exactly the same as River J's, you can adjust as needed. That's a good question. Anybody else? Anybody else and anything else on your mind? Anything else that you're struggling with? Any tips on Carpet. I haven't had carpet since I was in high school. And even then it wasn't my house and I wasn't quite so in charge of things. I just want to make sure it stays nice. Have I checked out Emily Lay's new cookbook? I have not yet. I would like to. I am torn because I feel like I have all these other cookbooks that I need to like actually utilize before I buy a whole new cookbook, because how often do I actually go to cookbooks? Not often. I go to like the internet before I go to cookbooks. And so it feels silly to like be buying a new cookbook, but I'm so tempted because just the way that she talks about cooking just to me feels so like I can so relate. Like I didn't get the cooking genes. Both my parents love to cook and are good at it. Why didn't I get that? Like I don't know why it skipped me. And so I feel like I would really love and relate to her cookbook, but I have not. I have not. Have you? Or has anybody? Has anybody gotten it? Did anybody pre-order it and want to share their thoughts? I mean, all I've seen are like rave reviews, but I also feel like it just launched yesterday. So like no like regular people have gotten it yet. So I'm like, I would like regular people's thoughts on this cookbook before I buy it. It might be maybe I should ask for it for my birthday from somebody. When I was younger, my aunt always had a rule, no bare feet on the carpet, something with oil. So it's funny as I like literally am playing with the carpet with my bare feet. That's funny. We are doing no shoes on the carpet, but we're also kind of a no shoe household in general. Like even we had hardwood, we did no shoes. So that's not really a new rule so much as it's like, we're really like on the hardwood, we could be lenient sometimes depending on what the situation is. There are no shoes upstairs or downstairs, like no shoes. And then we're doing no food upstairs. The basement, I mean, there's gonna be food in the basement with the carpet. So. New topic, doom scrolling. Looking for ideas on how to curb nighttime scrolling. So, there's a lot here, right? Some of it is, and I did not get this until I had a kid. Okay. So this is one of those, like, I didn't know until I knew. And it doesn't mean you can't feel this way if you don't have children, but it definitely feels more when you do have children, that by the time that you are in bed scrolling and they are in bed, I know your children are older than mine, but when they're finally asleep and you don't have somebody else relying on you, you finally have that time to yourself and you just want to zone out. So one of the ways I think that's really helpful is making sure that you have time to yourself in other ways, like in other times of the day, so that it didn't just all build up until the end. Number 2 is, what do you want to replace it with? Are you replacing it with reading? Are you replacing it with sleep? Are you replacing it? Like, what is it that you're replacing with, and setting the goals based on that? So instead of setting it like, I want to cut scrolling, like set a goal to, I want to read a chapter a night, or I want to turn off the lights by this time, right? And that is focusing on that aspect of it as opposed to the cutting, I think is really helpful. I think I just have to remind myself that like some days are going to be better than others, right? Some days I'm really good at putting my phone down and like picking up my Kindle and moving on. And some days I'm not. I also think not having your phone in the bedroom is a big one of these. I have not, you know what I should just buy is like a regular alarm, because my issue is I use my phone as my alarm because I don't want the hatch sound machine part to turn off so Sam can stay asleep, but I really don't want my phone in here. Maybe I should just buy like a real alarm. Anyway, that's a me problem I got to figure out. But I think that's where I would start. So my school friend writes best-selling in the UK cookbooks where all recipes are chucking a bunch of stuff in a roasting tin and putting it in the oven. Well, that's amazing. Padding is everything. Pay for the upgrade. You won't regret it. Navy as the background is great for hiding stains. Keep the pile of the carpet till a minimum until you have bigger kids. Well, it's a little late to pick all of those things, I think. I mean, I could always get padding added, but all the carpet's done. Like we did all the carpet before you moved in. I tried not putting the phone in the bedroom, but I tend to fall asleep to audiobooks. One of the things I just thought of, Mel, is using my iPad, which doesn't have and it also depends on what your doom scrolling vice is, right? Mine's Instagram. My iPad doesn't have Instagram because Instagram for the iPad is stupid. And so I just realized like I could just use my iPad as my alarm. And so you could do the same thing. You could use like is there a different device that you could use to fall asleep to audiobooks instead of your phone? So something to think about. We have no phones, computers, TVs in the bedroom, and it's so peaceful. Yeah. We don't have a TV in here. Obviously my computer's in here because that's my work, but I don't, it's different. Right. I don't have social media on my iPad, but could easily put Audible on it. Same. I also fall asleep to audiobooks sometimes. Depends on how sleepy I am after reading my actual book. So I think that's what I'm going to try. Like literally today, instead of my phone, and my phone can go freaking live in the bathroom. Yeah. I mean, I love my Hatch, don't get me wrong. And I miss being able to use it as my alarm clock now that, or that's the other option. I get Sam his own sound machine. Because we both like the sound machine, but then if I use it as my alarm, then I guess I could immediately turn it back on. Like the Hatch could turn the alarm. You know what I mean? Like the Hatch could be my alarm. And then as soon as I turn it off, I could turn the sound machine piece back on for Sam. Okay. Anyway, now I'm like thinking about my own routines. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's already almost time. All time flies. Let's wrap it up with our final question. What is the one thing you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What is the one small step that you're going to take to make progress? Mine is just going to be to stay focused on my goals, like on these little steps as I continue to prepare for the trip, and not just like I very much have been known to just like throw this out the window when I'm doing something like preparing for a trip. But I want to hear about your one step. If you are here live still, please say in the chat. And if you are watching the replay, come with another comment. Like I like when there's multiple comments. You shared your win at the beginning and now you're going to share your progress. Come on. I feel like the comments are probably just delayed. Do the why exercise for reading your book. Mail your save the dates. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. So fun. I love it. Check in with your accountability buddy. I love that. Clean up your March goals and get your action steps finalized. Love hearing about your steps. If you made it all the way to the end, will you comment with a plane emoji? Sending me safe travels on my flight. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not a little bit nervous about flying right now with everything going on, but it's going to be fine. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for hanging out.